Hello everyone, in this video we will be talking about few terms related to the seed. We will talk about Apomixis and we will also talk about Polyembryony. So let's start with seed viability first. Viability here refers to the ability of the seed to grow. Now whenever a seed grows, you know that radicle grows into a root and plumule divides mitotically to grow into a shoot. So any seed that is able to grow because it has a living embryo in it. Embryo has a definite period for which it is living. Each seed has a different viability period, right? You buy whole pulses from the market, you keep them stored in a box, and these seeds, they can germinate only for some amount of time. Till the time they can germinate, we will use the term seed viability, right? So seed viability of a seed varies from one plant to another. Herein we need to remember two names which are very important. One is Phoenix dactylifera. Here the seeds, they have longevity for about 1000 years. Another plant is Lupinus arcticus. This plant is from the Leguminaceae family, from most of the pulses are there. This plant had the seed viability of 10,000 years. So when seeds were excavated and they were discovered, the scientists, they grew the seeds and they found that not only vegetative growth happened, but yes, flowering too happened. So these two examples you need to learn because they are cited in NCERT, so they may be asked in the MCQ, which among the given plants has longer seed viability or the two plants with maximum seed viability. Now in contrast to the seed viability, there is one more term which is seed dormancy, and it is very much mentioned in the NCERT. Dormancy is just the opposite of viability, means the inability of seed to grow. Dormancy means the seed is dormant, it will not grow. Now there could be various reasons for it. It could be temporary dormancy or it could be permanent dormancy. Now permanent dormancy and temporary dormancy, as the name itself is clearing, temporary dormancy will be for quite some time. Once that factor which has caused the dormancy, if that factor will be removed, dormancy will change into seed viability. So if certain chemicals are there in the seed coat or inside and we dip these seeds in water for quite some time, then these chemicals, they are liberated in the water and the seeds become viable. Sometimes seed coat is very hard and it does not allow water to go in. At that case, scarification of the seeds is done. Scarification means rubbing the seeds on hard surface. So when you rub the seeds on hard surface, this process is given a term and this is scarification. So temporary seed dormancy can be removed by dipping the seeds in water. If the seeds have some chemicals which are resisting to grow, then these chemicals are released in water and dormant seeds will become viable. Sometimes when the seed coat is hard, scarification is done wherein the seeds are rubbed to a hard surface. This hard surface will remove the hard seed coat, and once you dip the seed will grow because the embryo is protected inside and it is embryo only that has to divide, that has to become metabolically active so that radicle and plumule, they can divide mitotically and they can form root and shoot respectively. Permanent dormancy is when embryo is not living. Means somehow if some seeds are being attacked by the pest, and these pests have eaten the embryo. In that case, the viability will be lost permanently, because when a seed is dipped in water, it is the embryo that has to divide, and it helps in propagating the life of the seed. Now, once seeds are formed, of course, seed dispersal is also very, very important. Seed dispersal means the transfer of the seed from the place where they have formed to the place where they have to grow. So for dispersal, always we use a suffix that is known as query. Now, seed dispersal may happen through water, it may happen through wind, or it may happen with the help of animals. Generally, these three factors, they are the most important ones, right? So, if it is happening through water, then we will use the term hydro and we will add query to it. If it is happening through wind, we will add the word anemo first, and then it will be query. For animals, we will use the word zoo and we will add query. So herein you will write in joint hydroquery. Now, how to define hydroquery? Means the dispersal of the seeds with the help of water is known as hydroquery. The dispersal of the seeds through wind is known as anemoquery. The dispersal of the seeds through animals is known as zooquery. Now, wind dispersal is very, very important. Sometimes seeds, they develop hair around their general surface. This makes the seeds light and they can easily flow with the flowing wind. Water dispersal means the seeds will be there in the water. With the flowing current, the seeds will be dispersed from one place to another and ultimately they will germinate. Zooquery happens because it takes help from the animals only. Some seeds, they have hooks or spines which help in clinging to the surface of the animals. So once animals visit the plants for grazing, seeds with the help of hooks, they cling to their body, and when animal moves from one place to another, these seeds, they fall down and they germinate, and then a new plant is formed. There are two more terms which are related to chapter number 2. One is Apomixis and another is Amphimixis. So apo always means asexual, means when organisms, they reproduce asexually. Higher organisms, suppose if we talk about honeybee, then it shows apomixis and then new generation is formed. Right? So apomixis is a type of asexual reproduction which is seen in the higher plants. However, amphimixis is the another name for the sexual reproduction, because amphi means mixing. Mixing of what? Mixing of two gametes. And you till now already know that in sexual reproduction it is an essentiality that two gametes should be there. One should be named as male, another should be known as female. When they mix together, the first diploid cell formed is known as zygote, and they fuse together. This is known as fertilization. Right? So in apomixis, whenever individuals are formed asexually, then we study the example of honeybee. So honeybee shows parthenogenesis, which is a type of asexual reproduction or apomixis. In parthenogenesis, a single gamete, you have seen that once zygote is formed, then it forms a new individual. But here in parthenogenesis, one gamete give rise to the another partner, right? So two gametes are not at all required to make a new individual. Only one gamete will be there, and this one gamete will form the new offspring, right? So parthenogenesis is seen in honeybee. We will be studying in detail in chapter number 5 about it. Now, before I close The next term which is mentioned in NCERT is polyembryony. Poly means many. So whenever many embryos will be there, the condition will become polyembryony. So presence of more than one embryo in a seed is known as polyembryony. Now this polyembryony, it could be of three types. It could be simple polyembryony, it could be cleavage polyembryony, it could be adventitive polyembryony. Now we will look into each term. Simple polyembryony is a one where more than one female gamete is present. Means when there will be more than one egg by error in the divisions. Somehow error happens and more than one female gamete is there in the ovule. In that case, there is a high probability that more than one embryo will be formed in a seed. This is known as simple polyembryony. Cleavage polyembryony is a one. This is the zygote, which is the first unicellular cell, and that is diploid too. Now this zygote too will be dividing further. Now in spite of this forming the apical cell, and this normally forms the basal cell, in the case of cleavage polyembryony, all the cells, they function as embryos. So each cell which has divided, it will divide in such a way that it will give rise to multiple embryos, right? So if multiple embryos are formed, means zygote divides, and with division each cell develops a capability to divide into an embryo. This is known as cleavage polyembryony. Adventitive polyembryony is a one wherein the other cells like antipodals, synergates, sometimes they also develop into the embryos. So if antipodal develops, synergates develop into the embryos, then such type of polyembryony is known as adventitive polyembryony. With this we come to an end of chapter number 2. But in the next video I will take in few problems which comes in the board examination. So stay tuned. Thank you.